We have T. Lamdang from motion bench and Mr. Walonier Jamir from the opposition bench.
Good morning, everyone. Respected panel of judges, timekeeper, and all the ladies and gentlemen that are present here today. My name is T. Lamdang from Jaffa Christian College, and today I will be speaking in favor of motions on the topic NLTP Act is boon for Naga society. Nagaland Liquor Total Prohibition Act 1989 was formulated after a prolonged series of rallies and demand carried out by the churches and civil society organizations, and also to address the social issues related to alcohol abuse, where people from Nagaland from all walks of life have made a covenant with God to make Nagaland a tri-state. However, today it is very saddening and despairing to see that many Nagas are failing to realize the significance of these prohibitions. And many arguments like good wine, revenue, economic, lack of development are brought about, which I see as very poor argument. So today I have four arguments to defend or 4 points to defend my arguments and also to counter my opponent. First, can Nagaland develop economically without the revenue generated from liquor? When I say this, I will take an example from Gujarat state. Gujarat is a state where prohibition exists, but the economy is growing rapidly. So is it difficult for the Nagas to grow economically without liquor? The second point, to vouch against prohibition for good wine is a poor argument. Be it good wine or bad wine, my question is, will wine do alcohol to the already fragmented social health of our people? Remember, there is no good wine and long life. Third point, without prohibitions, it will automatically lead to the mix of gun and wine. And combining alcohol and gun will be the dangerous and potentially deadly mixture. Number 4, how can we honor God, being a Christian state, when our street is flooded with liquor? Nagas have failed to realize the benefits. Today we see a less gangsterism, crooks and cronies, drunken pranks and births, and those were the reason why PA was formulated. Today you might be talking about unmanageable law, but if it is lifted, tomorrow we are going to talk about unmanageable social ill. After prohibitions, we see a less domestic violence, unlike in Andhra Pradesh and West Bengal, where alcohol is cheap and generously available. It is the highest crime committed against the women and children that are committed under the influence of alcohol. Talking about revenues, in Kerala they get 8,000 crores from liquors, but this gain on the other hand is undermined by a serious loss on spending on health and other social related issues. So what is the point? What is the good point of benefits of revenue here if it is not healthy for our society? Let us not take an example from the American society, because in the United States, if the parents are alcoholic, the government take care of their children. So my question is, what mechanism does our government have in a similar situation? It is NLTP Act that plays an important role. Dr. Wilfield Greenfield rightly said that I have seen a ship lost in a collision because the captain was having a little wine. Alcohol abuse, corruption is simple logic. If government is hard today, it is going to get harder. If election is messy, it is going to get messier. If politics is dirty, it is going to get dirtier without the prohibition. In conclusions, it should not be a church versus government versus civil society, but it should be church, government, civil society versus liquor. It is hazardous, especially for youngsters who are in the most formative period of their life, who will be introduced early into drinking. And then, the promise to make Nagaland a tri-state is registered in land and in heaven. This very important thing we have to remember. So without prohibitions, Nagaland for Christ will automatically turn to Nagaland for wine. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judges, respected opponents, and my fellow students. I stand before you today to speak against the motion NLTP Act is a boon for Naga society. Now, before I proceed with my arguments, I would like to share a phrase upon which my action of going against this motion is based. Strict regulations over total prohibition. I repeat, strict regulations over total prohibition. I'll come back to that later at the end of my argument. The NLTP Act has not been successful when we look at its consequences and impacts. The very fact that we are having this debate today is a direct testament to the failure of this act. While speaking on the health hazards of spurious liquor, Nagaland Chief Minister Nipirio has stated that this act cannot be called successful. The total prohibition aspect of this act has led to unintended dire consequences like the illegal inflow of alcohol through black markets and other illegal sources of supply. And not only that, these alcohol are adulterated and substandardized, which means they possess very high risk of poisoning and even death as opposed to adulterated alcohol. And in addition to that, this act has led to an increase in criminal activities due to the nature of the operations conducted in this field of business. Now, our opponents have stated that alcohol is a major proponent of violence, and while that is partially true, and alcohol do cause violence, alcohol is simply a trigger, not the cause. The point that I'm trying to make here is that just because you consume alcohol, it is not going to miraculously turn you into an individual that is out for violence. And I can prove this in a very simple way. I have friends, relatives, and elders that consume alcohol, but I don't see them drinking alcohol and just go about beating people or inciting violence. As a matter of fact, most of these people consume alcohol for celebration or during special occasions. The point that I'm trying to make here is that the nature of violence or the urge to incite violence is inherent in each and every one of us, and alcohol is simply one of the many factors that triggers this urge. Now, to further substantiate on that, the percentage of people that do actually commit violence because of alcohol are considerably low. These are people that are sad, depressed, or anxious and have got nothing to do in their life except drink away their sorrows. So to simply say that alcohol is a major proponent of violence, when violence can be committed because of other factors, is not a strong argument. And even if that were true, the percentage of those people are considerably low and almost negligible in the bigger picture. Now, going back to the phrase I mentioned earlier, my proposition is that our government should remove the total prohibition aspect of this act and reconstruct it with a concept of strict regulations. In other words, a controlled environment rather than total prohibition. What this will do is it will get rid of the illegal smuggling and activities, which in turn will reduce unwanted violence and victims of poor adulterated alcohol. And to back my proposal, it is historically evident that strict regulations in controlled environment have a much higher success than total prohibition, as seen from the failure of the US alcohol prohibition of 1920. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the insightful arguments you have presented. So far, we have heard interesting perspectives from all the speakers, and to sum up a bit, from the motion bench, the speakers emphasized the success of the act with facts and figures, that there is a reduction in violence, corruption, and there is a reduction in violence and corruption, and they also emphasize that lifting the prohibition to create more employment opportunities is not an option, as there are other better avenues to do so. On the other hand, the opposition bench countered that due to prohibition, it poses challenges to regulate the consumption, and also countered that crimes, domestic violence, road accidents are not related to, crimes are still prevalent despite the prohibitions, and so lifting may not make much difference. And also added that, the speakers also added that the prohibition had encouraged the rise of illegal activities and bootlegging. With that, we will continue with the speakers from the motion bench. We have Yukase, and from the opposition bench we have Pushikali. You may proceed.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and it's your honor, my panel of judges, critic, timekeeper, moderator, and you are my worthy opponent. I, Yukase L. Jingwe, representing Kohima College, and today I speak in favor of team motion. NLTP Act is a boon for the Naga society. Why? Because it maintains law and order in the society. How? Before 1989, as the principal of Sazolie College have stated that liquor was free everywhere, and liquor was found everywhere, and anybody can purchase, and anybody can drink. So there was no law and order in the society. And even in the college, since it's legal, the students are intoxicated with alcohol. So no legal action has been taken against them. But after the implementation of this Act, NLTP Act 1989, it became illegal. So even the college institution or school institution have the right to take action against a person who is indulged in those activities. As my opponent have said, violence is created not by alcohol. Yes, I accept that. Even Jesus Christ drank alcohol. But what is the difference between Jesus Christ and us? Jesus Christ has a self-control. But we Nagas, we don't have self-control. And we drink alcohol not for medical purpose, but we drink alcohol for pleasure. And what happens? There is violence because of that intoxicated things. And talking about revenue, come on, open your eyes. Alcohol is not the only way which generates revenue. Take a look at commercial building laborers. Not only that, commercial shop owners. Those are all owned and controlled by the illegal immigrants who come to our state without ILP. And not only that, why don't the state government revive those old factories like Wazil Cement Factory? Those factories were generating crores and crores of money. And not only generating revenue, it also creates employment opportunity for Naga youths. Not only that, it paved the way for Naga farmers to sell the raw materials. So why don't the state government focus on that, rather than legalizing something which in turn will harm numerous and countless people of our society? Come on, open your eyes. And I take an example of my village. NLTP Act is very beneficial for our Naga society. Why? Because NLTP Act is a legal act passed and enforced by the state government. And because of that, my village has become an alcohol-free village. You know why? Because it is a legal law. The village council has the right to take legal action against a person who abuses alcohol or a person who consumes alcohol. So now, there is no one in our village who consumes alcohol or who sells alcohol, which became alcohol-free, which promote peace and prosperity in my village. So that's very beneficial for the Naga society. And not only that, a disease left untreated, a bad disease left untreated will become worse. Just as that, if this NLTP Act is not implemented, the alcohol consumption in our state will become worse than it is now. Thank you.